Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Message in a Vodcast. I am your host, the non-editor of The Message, Libby Begg, and I'm, of course, joined by my editors and co-founders, David Brown and Chris Powell. Hi, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm great. It's good to see your faces. As always, before we get started, I want to say a huge thank you to our partners at Blue Ant Plus, who help make this podcast happen every 2 weeks. So thank you so much, guys. It's a really fun and awesome team we get to work with over there. So how are you guys doing today?
Good.
Very well.
Ready to go.
Good.
Monday morning, ready to get at it.
Monday morning, ready to get at it. We can't reveal when we tape them. We can't reveal when we tape. They can't know our trade secrets. It is a Monday morning. It is the beginning of a new week. And as you guys know, we are going to follow a similar template in all of these vodcasts. I'm going to ask one of you to give me your favorite story, your best story from the world of marketing, advertising, creative in the last couple of weeks. And I'm going to ask the other person to give me their most interesting story from the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, as always, I will attempt to stump you with my knowledge of really ridiculous things in the pop culture pop quiz. Sound good?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to start, I think, with you, David Brown. Will you tell me something great that you've seen or good that you've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think for me, the past couple of weeks have been all about the Olympics.
Yes, totally.
I thought they were great. And one Canadian brand in particular I'll talk about was RBC. But I'll come down in a second. I just think the Olympics overall, I know that it was a weird year, obviously, not least because of COVID, but also the timing made it tough for broadcasters. I think the viewership numbers were down. But to me, there was a lot of really great feel-good stories about the Olympics for Canada. And, so in that way, it was sort of a source of great content, as we say in the industry. I hate that term, but it was great watching, great viewing. In terms of Canadian brands, their advertising, I think, was pretty good. Solid, emotional stuff. I don't think anyone would say it was extraordinary, but it was just very, very nice.
Nice, like good, feel good.
Yeah, you couldn't miss Sobeys, Air Canada, Petro-Canada. I mean, if anyone who's watching on broadcast, which is me, they were there a lot. I still can't, it drives me nuts when I see the same ad twice in the same ad break, but whatever.
Totally.
But RBC, I want to talk about RBC, and it stood out for me not because of its advertising, really. It was kind of for a different reason. And that's the RBC Training Ground. This is the program they started in 2016 to find and fund young Canadian athletes, high potential athletes who they kind of turn into Olympians. And this was the first Olympics that athletes from the program were competing. There were 8 in all. And I was vaguely aware of the program. I knew of it. And we did a story about their campaign. Chris did a story in mid-July about their campaign coming into it. And the campaign was about ideas happen here. That was the tagline. And the ideas hook for me at first felt kind of flat. But then when I was watching the decathlon, and the commentator was talking about the Canadian Piers Lepage, who was obviously kind of overshadowed by Damien Warner, who won the gold. Right. But at the time, Lepage was in the contention. I think he was second or third. He was doing well. And the commentator mentioned that he had come out of RBC Training Ground. And that was a real moment for me. That's what our marketers, when they fund these kinds of things, that's what they're all hoping for, because it felt more real. And it was an example of RBC putting their money into something and it paying off. And he wasn't the only one. Jerome Blake won I think he was another RBC Training Ground. He was part of the men's 4x100 media relay team. And 2 gold medal women. Avalon Westnays won gold. She wanted to be a skier, and she went to this training ground, and they got her into rowing, and she won. She was part of the 8 women rowing that won gold.
She went from skiing to rowing, like winter sport to.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what makes the program cool. They find these people who aren't in their sport necessarily, and they identify their potential, and then they groom them for these sports. And the great one was on closing weekend. Kelsey Mitchell, the cyclist, won a gold. And 4 years ago, she had never ridden competitively. She wanted to be a soccer player.
That's insane.
And they find her. It's great because all these big Olympic sponsors, they have their athletes. I mean, everyone wants a piece of Andre DeGrasse. Sobeys has a team of athletes they sponsor, but RBC has gone out and found these people, these young athletes before their household names, and they're turning them into household names, which then that ties it into, when you watch the ad, it does tie it into this thing about ideas. They say the idea is that they would find these people and make them athletes. So they do connect it. But it's the kind of I hate using this word, but there's a certain sort of authenticity about them finding these young people and turning them into athletes that I think is great. Now, the interesting thing is to see how they really kind of leverage it and PR it, I guess, because they want to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They don't want to be seen to be taking too much credit from these athletes,
Right.
or undue credit or taking the spotlight. But I think it was a success for that program.
It's a great, good story. I love it. I love it. Okay, Chris Powell, on to you. What is your most interesting, I'm trying not to use my air quotes like I did last time, but your most interesting, sincerely, could be interesting, story that you've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Well, actually, I genuinely do believe it's interesting.
I thought so, yeah. Don't let the air quotes fool you.
There you go. Yeah, so embrace the air quotes. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things that I guess you could say it's sort of on the periphery of marketing, but yet it's not. And it's about a guy, a Canadian named Reynolds, who created his own booze brand and started his own ads for the product. So obviously you think Ryan Reynolds, but in this case, it's a guy named Stu Reynolds, who is a relatively popular content creator on social. He has, I think around 300,000 followers. His name is Stu Reynolds, as I said, and he goes by the name Brittle Star, quote, unquote, the internet's favorite dad. He was inspired. He actually struck up a sort of an online friendship with Ryan Reynolds, who you may know from his aviation gin fame, and
amongst other things, yeah.
Sending him a case of his aviation gin brand, which for Stuart Reynolds, aka Brittle Star, would be the inspiration for him to launch a booze brand of his own, which he called S&G Pure Canadian Butter Tart Flavored Vodka. Now, as an aside here, the S&G stands for Sex and Gold, which is a callback to a video that he created, a piece of content marketing that he created for a KFC a couple of years ago, called Explaining Canada Day to Americans, and which he cited uniquely Canadian things, including bagged milk, universal healthcare, and butter tarts.
Amazing.
Which he then described as being like if you were to put sex and gold in a blender.
That's what butter tarts are. That's how we describe butter tarts.
Butter tarts.
That's fair. I feel like that's a fair description.
So he came out with his own line of this flavored vodka, which by all accounts has been sounding like gangbusters. I think we wrote about this story last week, but I think he's sold through the initial run of, I believe it was 600 and 700 bottles. So he's about 1,300 bottles. I could be wrong on my numbers there, but it's around somewhere in that vicinity. And as I mentioned, he's also doing his own advertising.
Well, that was awesome. I love that. Now I love this whole vodcast, but obviously one of my favorite parts is our pop culture pop quiz, where I attempt to stump both of you with my useless knowledge of the celebrity influencer Bravo TikTok culture. So do you guys feel ready this morning?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So,
because you guys have taught me well, I always try and pull something sort of from the news. So in the last week, a new celebrity has become a billionaire. Yep. Do you know who that celebrity is?
Rihanna.
Oh, yes. Powell. Nailed it. And do you know how much she is worth?
I think it was 1.6.
You're close. You're very close. It's 1.7 billion. Now, you might think, because she's a musical artist, that some of that, a good portion of that would come from her music sales. Would you be correct in that assumption?
No.
So what is do you guys know what the majority of it comes from?
I know a lot. I think we know too much. Is Fenty.
Yes. So she's got two,
I don't know
if
it's makeup or perfume. I think it's makeup.
So Fenty Beauty, you guys are nailing this. So yes, Fenty Beauty. See, I can't do things this topical. I've got to be more obscure next time. Note to self. So Fenty Beauty, which would include her makeup and her perfumes and that whole portion, makes up 1.4 billion of the 1.7. And then she's got Savage by Fenty, which is her lingerie, occasionally sort of clothing line, which is about 270 million. Do you know that she is the most successful female musician now, financially successful, but she is the second most successful female entrepreneur entertainer? Do you know who the first most successful billionaire female entertainer is?
Oprah.
Yes, Oprah. So it's two Black women, which I think is also noteworthy and pretty awesome. And yeah, I was super excited to hear it. So you guys did very well on this one, but I will say, I feel like I threw you a bit of a softball because this was like more newsworthy and topical.
Well, I was
didn't
thinking
go
trending
deep
on
into the
Twitter.
archives.
It was
Yes,
trending on Twitter most of the week. So yeah.
right. So next time, guys, it's going to get real obscure and real
Okay.
weird, real
All
weird.
right.
Thank you guys for taking the time on this Monday morning, and we will see all of you guys in the next 2 weeks for episode number 4.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.